Hello guys, and welcome back to another episode. This time we're changing things up a bit, where instead of exploiting a box, we're going to be creating an exploit from scratch. So we're going to be exploiting a vulnerability that was identified in WordPress in 2021, and it's going to be having the CVE ID of CVE-2021-29447. So it's just an XML entity injection exploit that enables you to retrieve any sensitive files that you have read access on the remote target system. So it's a really simple vulnerability, but the exploit is going to get a bit complex, but I'm sure you're going to learn something by the end. So without much say, let's jump in. So first of all, what you're going to be doing is just to open up the page to see exactly what you're going to get. So for this, I'm going to be using Mozilla to just open up the page so that you can even identify exactly the technology that is running on the site. So right now, if I go to the browser, then type metapress.htp and let it run, then what you're going to be doing is looking at the site. So we have a site that looks kind of like a WordPress site, and if you just scroll down a bit and look at the footer, you can see that it says proudly powered by WordPress. So first of all, you already have a WordPress site, and whenever you get a WordPress site, you might want to start by doing enumeration on the site. So I'm just not going to be doing the entire enumeration. I'll just be touching on exactly what we need to exploit the bug. Like, how can I be able to identify that this specific version of WordPress is vulnerable to a specific vulnerability? So first of all, the tool that I'm going to be using first is called WhatWeb. So let's go to a terminal, then type the command whatweb, then specify the URL. So once I click run and give it a second, you can see it was able to fingerprint the site and even retrieve some of the most interesting headers. One of them, you can see that the server is running Nginx version 1.18.0. So you might even try to see if you can be able to identify any exploits pertaining to Nginx 1.18.0. So the next thing that also looks interesting is that if you look at the meta generator, you can see that we have a WordPress version 5.6.2. So what we can just do is to take this exact version, then go back to our browser, then try to see if it has any publicly available exploits. So what I'm just going to do is Google WordPress version 5.6.2, then exploit, then you see we actually get some results, which actually seems interesting. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to try to see if I just can access one of these sites and help if it's going to give me anything that looks interesting. So let's look at this. Let's give it a second, and you can see it says that WordPress version 5.7, 5.62, 5.61, 5.6, then 5.0.11 is affected by XML entity injection vulnerability. So just by doing a fingerprinting using what we've been able to identify the exact version of WordPress that is running, then doing an exploit, just doing a Google search online, we get that it's vulnerable to an XXE. As I've said before, XXE is just an XML entity injection vulnerability, whereby you're able to, depending on how the server is passing XML, you can actually use it. If it doesn't pass it correctly, you can actually use it to be able to retrieve any sensitive information from the server. So files like etsy-pass WD, you can be able to retrieve them. You can retrieve configuration files. Like in our case, if given the fact that this is a WordPress site, we can be able to retrieve the wp-config.php that evidently is used for it's just a configuration for WordPress. So you can get the database credentials for WordPress, you can get the user, you can get the cryptographic keys that are used for cookie generation, and things like that. So the next way that you can also identify that this specific version WordPress is vulnerable is using a program called WP scan. So let me just try to access it. Then I click enter to see exactly the arguments that we need to be able to run it. So we just need to provide WP scan -URL, provide the URL, which in our case it's metapress.htp. Then after that, the next thing that we're going to do is to provide an API token. So basically what happens is WP Scan has a vulnerability scanning API service, whereby you can actually sign up for one. Then what you're going to do is to get an API token, and then you can use that API token to just scan for vulnerability. So it's, if you go just to Google, let me do that right now, then Google WP scan API, then something like login, you get these ones. So you get this first service whereby it says WordPress vulnerability database API. So if you go to this specific page, you can actually, sign up for one. So it's not that hard. It's something that you can actually do. So it's both a free service and a paid compared to the number of calls of APIs you can make per day. But in our case, we're going to be using the free service. We're not going to be using anything paid. So just to include that API token, I'm going to be using the command --API token, then provide the API token that I'm going to use. And just FYI, the moment you're going to be seeing this walkthrough, I'll have invalidated this API token, so it's not going to work. But I believe you can be able to register for an account by yourself. So let's just click enter. Then it says it's updating the database. So let's just give it some time. Then you're going to see exactly what you're going to get. So basically, WP Scan is just going to do fingerprinting, trying to see exactly what version of WordPress it is, the type of technologies that are being used, the users that are available, the kind of themes, plugins that the server is using, if they're in config backups. So it's something that is always going to check. But in our case, the only thing that we're actually interested in is just to see the vulnerabilities that WordPress version 5.6.2 has. And as you can see right now, while the scan is running, you can see that WordPress version 5.6.2, which has been identified, it's insecure, and it was released on 2021, February 22nd. And it says that, WP Scan was able to identify that it had 29 vulnerabilities. But the one that we're mostly interested in right now, it's this one. It's the authenticated XXE within the media library, and it's affecting PHP version 8. So we've been able to use two ways to identify that WordPress is vulnerable to this specific exploit. Now, the next thing is going to exploit it. But as you can see, there's one gotcha whereby you actually need to be authenticated to that application. So without having the proper credentials, you won't be able to exploit this bug. So it's something that I already have the credentials, but that's a story for another day of how I got the credentials. But for you to be able to log in, what you just need to do is to go to WP, then -login.php. Then you're going to click enter. Sorry about that. So let me just do that again. hp:// then provide the URL. It's going to go to the login page for WordPress. Then I'm going to be providing the username of manager. Sorry about that. Then the password. I think I typed it. Then let's try to log in to see if those credentials will actually work. And they work. So the credentials that I'm going to be using is Party Like a Rockstar. So we already now have access to, the authenticated access to the site as the manager at MetaPress.hp. So I believe also if I go back right now to just look at the information that has been identified by WP Scan, I'm sure if we look at these results, let me see if you can get. So we were not able to extract any users because we didn't specify that in our script. But what you're going to do is to just get rid of the API token because you've already identified the bugs. Then I'm just going to be using -u. -u basically tells WP Scan that I need you to enumerate. So I'm just going to be specifying CB for configuration backups, vulnerable themes, then vulnerable plugin. Then lastly, I'm going to be specifying users. So those are just, give it a second, I believe. So it's not -u, but -e. So let's leave it running again. Then we're going to just come to look to see if it's going to be able to identify that user, that the manager user that we've identified, from our credentials. So let's just give it some time to run. But remember, if we go back while this one is running, it said that the vulnerability exists in the media library. So what happens is, if we go to the authenticated site, this is the media library. So in media library, we can actually be able to add a media. So this is where the weakness comes in. So what I'm going to do is to go back to the blog. Then you're going to see exactly what kind of malicious payload you can send to be able to exploit the bug. So what you just need to do is to take this exploit, this one here. So this is just a one liner. Then I'm going to take it to my terminal, uh, open up a new tab, make sure I don't have anything that is going to compromise it. Then next I'm going to do is to change the IP address and the port. So right now, as you can see at my top right corner, my IP address is 10.10.14.18. So I'm going to change that to 10.10.14.18. Then I'm going to be specifying the port of 8000. So I believe that's it. The next thing that I'm going to do is to save. So if I do a file payload, I'm not sure if so, it says it's a web, it's the data wave audio file. So basically it's been able to identify it. So that's going to act as our payload. As you can see right now, this is the XML entity payload that we're going to use. And what I want you to keep in mind is the fact that this is going to be an out of band attack. Basically, you're not just it, like it's a blind attack. So we're going to need to use a different channel to extract the information from the server. So this is where DTD is going to be coming into play. So if you go down, you will see that there's a DTD provided here. So this is the DTD that we're going to be using, in our box. So let me create a new file using nvim, then specify evil.dtd, which has also been specified in this payload here. So let me just specify evil.dtd, click start, then pass the payload. Then again, you're going to be changing the IP address to be 10.10.14.18, 10.10.14.18, then specify the port of 8000. So that's the only change that we need to make. Then after that, the last thing that we're going to be doing is to specify an HTTP server whereby it can run. Then go back to a WordPress scan, then click add new. Then select the file we want to upload. So let's go to boxes, box write-ups, video write-ups, then exploit development, then pick the WAV file. So let's just make sure that our HTTP listener is running and it's good. So let's try to upload it and see if you're going to get a successful payload response. So as you can see, we've been able to extract a base64 encoded stream. So let's try to decode it and see if you're going to get anything interesting. So it's going to be echo-n, specify the base64, then pipe it to base64-d. So if you look right now, we've been able to extract the 80% WDT using an XXE injection attack. So that's really nice. But now what we're going to be doing is to do this using an automated way, whereby you're going to be creating an exploit that is first of all going to go to WordPress. Then after that, it's going to log into the system. Then after that, it's going to upload a payload file. Then again, after that, it's going to set up an HTTP server to receive this payload, then decode it, then give us the feedback. So it's really going to be interesting. And without much say, let's now jump to our Windows box so that we can actually begin creating the exploit. So right now we are in our Windows 11 box, and even before we begin creating the exploit, I just need us to take a few notes down, like, what do we expect to create, and how is it going to integrate with the WordPress itself to ensure that, the exploit actually works. So in my case, I'm going to be using these note-taking software called Obsidian. You can actually get it online, then download it, then you can actually use it, but it's really simple. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is just to create a new note, call it, like, let's say exploit notes. Then that's it. So first of all, then you're going to specify exactly what we need our exploit to be able to do. So first of all, we need our exploit to be able to create an HTTP server. So remember, as we saw, you can only do an out-of-band attack, whereby you can use a different channel whenever you're sending the payload, then you can use a totally different channel whenever you're trying to receive the feedback. So we're going to be using an HTTP server, a custom HTTP server that is written in Python, to be able to achieve this. So it's going to be an HTTP server. You can also, I believe you can use an HTTP server, but it will require more lines of code. It's something not difficult to do. I'm sure if you feel like it's necessary for me to do it, you can just include it in the comment section. Then I can create an HTTP server. But right now I'm just going to be keeping it real simple. and just using an HTTP server written in Python. So that's number one. Number two, we need to have a way of logging in. So we're going to be doing WP login to be able to log into WordPress. Then after logging into WordPress, then we're going to be able to upload the web file. So upload the web file. So after uploading the web file, what it's going to happen is it's going to reach out to our box to get the evil.dtd server. Then after uploading it again to the server, it's going to use that out of band attack to be able to get the payload. So after getting the payload, as you saw in our Windows box, we were able to get the payload in a base64 format. So we also need to remember that our exploit needs to be able to decode it and give us the feedback. If it was an HTTP pass WD, you're going to be able to see the user instead of retrieving it in a base64 format, then giving the user to start decoding the entire string again. So our script is going to do everything. So what the user is just going to do is to provide an input like, I want to be able to extract etc pass WD. Then the server automates the entire process, then gives you the etc pass WD file. So it's going to be really interesting. And in our case, you're going to be using the tool called VS Code. It's just an IDE, but I really like it a lot. It's really, it really helps whenever you're trying to write any complicated code. So it helps a lot because of syntax highlighting, proper indentation. Also, it gives you intelligence for Python. So it actually, helps a great deal. But, when we were doing the enumeration, remember we were running a scan to see if we were going to be able to identify any users. And as you can see, WP was able to identify that there's a user called admin, then there's a user called manager. So we were able to log in as manager, not admin. But WP scan has a way of being able to identify that these are the users that are available on this box. And as you can see, I think it was able to identify using this file known as wp-sitemap-users-1.xml, I think. Hope I'm right. But the next thing, now we're going to go back to our Windows box. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is to double click there. Then I'm going to choose a language that I'm going to write my exploit in. So you'll find that different hackers will use different type of languages depending on what you're familiar with. Like in my case, I'm able to write an exploit either in JavaScript or Java or Python or even C#. But I believe I'm more conversant with Python. That's why you'll find that most of my exploits are actually written in Python. But I'm still able to code several other languages, even Bash. So what you're going to pick is just Python. Then after that, it's going to instantiate a Python IDE, then load at the environments, like, trying to find the Python interpreters that are present. So for a Windows box, what you need to know is the fact that, first of all, you need to install the Python. Like in my case, I'm using Python version 3.11.1. You can just download it from the Microsoft Office store. Then you also, for you to be able to maximize the use of VS Code, you need to install various extensions. Like in my case, the extension that is going to really work for us is these Pylance and Python. So if you just install Python, it's going to come with Pylance, and it's actually going to help you, make the exploit writing process to be a bit simpler. But right now, let's just jump in and start writing the exploit. And then we're going to, after writing every function, you're just going to run to make sure that our exploit works as expected. So we're not just going to be writing the code from start to finish, then try to debug it once we finish writing the code. So we're going to be writing bits and pieces, then trying to test to make sure it works, so that by the time we finish writing the last function, it's just a matter of running the exploit and seeing that things actually work. So first of all, I'm just going to be specifying that you're going to be using Python 3. So I'm going to specify hashtag sign, then a pound, then /user /pin /n to tell terminal that I'm going to be using a Python 3 exploit. Then from there, whenever you are writing Python code, you need to do some imports. So basically, Python utilizes modules. So these modules are able to perform different functions. Like if you want to start an HTTP server, I need to provide the http.server module. Then from there, pick the function that I'm going to be using to instantiate an HTTP server. So like, the module that I'm going to be using whenever trying to instantiate an HTTP server, you're going to be using the command from http.server. Then you're going to tell, I want you to import HTTP server. This is going to be acting as our server. then base HTTP request handler. So basically that's it. We've been able to import this module successfully. And as you can see, HTTP server will just instantiate the server. Then the base HTTP request handler is just going to handle requests, like either you want to try a get request or a post request. This is the function that is going to be able to handle that. Then from there, the next thing that you need to do is to import Agpa. So import. Sorry about that. We are going to import Agpas. So what the use of Agpas is that, instead of hard coding credentials in the payload file, we're just going to tell the user to specify the credentials in a terminal, like, in an argument. So basically the script is going to be using argument whenever you're trying to, provide the L host, the remote host, the username and password, the port to use, and things like that. So the next thing that I'm going to include is import requests. So request is just going to be able to make HTTP requests. So there it is. I'm going to include sys so that you can actually exit from the instance gracefully. I'm going to include base64. The reason as to why I'm going to be including base64, remember, if I go back to my Kali machine, we have this base64 blob whereby we need to decode it to get the exact file that was retrieved from the server. So what you're going to do is to use a base64 module in Python to just decode it and give the user back the file that they want to view. So what I'm going to do is to do from base64, then I want it to import b64 decode, then comma b64 encode. Where is it? Here it is, b64 encode. So we have it right there. Then after that, I need to include a regular expression module. So I'm going to import RE. So what it's going to happen is, you'll notice when we start writing the exploit that WordPress has these tokens. So without you providing the correct token that WordPress gives you, you won't be able to make any request. So it's something like a token, a CSRF token that WordPress generates the moment it generates at runtime. Let me say like that. So after that, is there any other module that we're going to need? I don't know, but what you can do is, let's just say that right now this is the bare minimum. But I believe that once you continue writing the exploit, you're going to include something more. Like I've remembered one from CMD, import. Sorry about that. So we are going to import a module named CMD. So what CMD is going to do, it's going to emulate a terminal. So it's going to just set up a TTY inside Python that will help us whenever you're trying to write commands. So after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to specify an if statement. If underscore name underscore equals, then provide underscore main underscore. So basically we're just trying to tell Python is the fact that you're going to start the execution of this program from main. So don't, if I have any functions above this main, don't try to execute them. Execute anything that has been declared below the main function. So that's it for now. The next thing that we're going to do now is to try and create an HTTP server. So that's the first initial thing that we're going to be doing. So to create an HTTP server, first of all, we need to create a class. I'm going to name my class server. Then from there, the server, I'm going to use the object HTTP server. Then I'm just going to name it as pass. So the server has already been instantiated, so nothing else you need to do there. Then from there, we need to create a function. I'm going to just label my function run. And we're going to create a variable called HTTP server. There it is. Then it's going to contain that class server. Then in a tuple, you're going to be including the IP address you're going to be using. In my case, I'm going to be including 0.0.0.0 to tell Python that I want you to listen on all interfaces. Then I'm going to be specifying a port of 8000. You can specify any port you want from 1 to 65,535, just depending on exactly which port you like. You can even use 9001 and still it's going to work. Then we're going to specify that I want you to use the best HTTP request handler. Then from there, the server, then the only thing that is left for us to do is to instantiate the server. So to do this, I'm going to be doing http.serve forever. So that's it. So after that, I need to come back to the main method. Then from there, what I'm going to do is to just define that run function. So what I'm just going to tell it is I want you to run this function which is going to instantiate that server. So I've remembered two things that I need to add to my script. One of them, it's going to just to make our output looks pretty by using a module called term color. So from term color import colored. So there it is. So that's going to include term color. So the next thing, just to make our script a bit more intuitive, is just to include information messages like, what is the server doing right now? Has it been able to instantiate the server properly and things like that? So I'm just going to create a variable called start underscore server. Then it's going to be colored. Then I'm going to be using to be putting some, to be writing like, just an information message like starting server on port 8000. There it is. Then it's going to be in blue color. So what I'm just going to do is to print this statement like print start, not that, start server, then that's it. So our server seems like, right now it's able to start, but the next thing that we're going to do is to save this exploit, then try to run it. And as I said before, I need to run this exploit from my Windows box because it makes the process a bit more easier. So what I'm going to do is to go back to my Windows box, then just get rid of all these directories that we don't need. We've already finished up, using WP scan. So the next thing I'm going to do is really simple. First of all, I'm going to remove those files that we don't need right now. We're going to need it later, but you can just pick it up from the articles that we read before. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to first of all create a directory called SMB. So basically what SMB is going to do is host an SMB server that you're going to instantiate using in Packet. So to create an SMB server, what you just need to do is to run the in Packet script in packet-smb server. So here it is. This is the script that we're going to use. So it's just a quick way of starting an SMB server. So the next thing that I'm going to put is SMB to support, because most of the system right now support SMB version 2, not version 1. Then the next thing that I need to specify is the share name, then the directory that the share is going to be hosted. So to do that, I'm going to specify the share name of test, then the share directory of SMB. I'm already in SMB, so let me do this. Let me just copy it, then go back one directory. Sorry about that. So specify the share SMB. Then from there, you need to specify a username and a password. This is because Windows, for some of the operating system, it made it necessary for you to include credentials to access an SMB share. So what I'm going to be doing is to specify the argument username, which is just going to be test, and the password, which is just going to be test. So that's it. So I'll give it a second. I think I didn't include in Packet, so let's run it and see if it's going to work. It says that the SMB server started successfully, which is actually a good thing. So next thing that I'm going to do is to specify ifconfig to be able to get the exact IP address of my system. So my Ethernet IP address is 192.168.216.128. So to run it, I'm going to come back to my Windows box, then call a binary called run, then give it the IP address, which is 192.168.216.128. I hope it's the same one. It's the same one. Then the share name, it's going to be test, the name of the share, which in our case also it's test. So let's just try to run it and see if we're going to be able to authenticate to the application. So give it a second. It says it needs a username and a password. Remember, use the username and the password of test. So test, then the password of test, then try to run it, then see if it's going to work, and we've been able to authenticate successfully. So let me just go back to my Linux box, then click Control S to try and save the exploit. Then it says it wants us to, it's asking us exactly where we need to save the file. So let me just click run again so that I can get the exact IP address of the system, which is this one. So let me just copy it. So right now I've been able to get the IP address of the system. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is to come to this search box up here, then provide the same exact network IP address, then save it as an exploit. So I'm going to save it as exploit.py, then just click save. So right now, if I go back to my Kali Linux box, so you can just leave that. So, and then go to SMB, cd SMB, you can see that we have the exploit. And if I do a cat exploit, you can see that we have the same exact script that we wrote on the Windows machine. So that's good. We can just write our exploit on Windows, then save it here. So let's just try to run it and see if it's going to work. So Python 3, then provide exploit.py. Then it says starting server on port 8000. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to split the terminal, then try to do a curl on 127.0.0.1, then provide the port of 8000. So as you can see, it works as expected. So we've been able to connect to that port, but it says that HTTP status not implemented, server that does not support this operation. So it doesn't support a GET operation. So it's something that we're going to tweak a bit in the next few seconds to make sure that it works. Then we can just continue writing the exploit. But right now we've been able to instantiate a server on port 8000. So let's go back to our Windows box. Then the next thing that we're going to do is really simple. We just need to create an HTTP request provider class. So to do that, I'm just going to create another class. Then we're going to label it handler. Then it's going to be utilizing the module of best HTTP request handler. Then after that, I'm going to be specifying definition file of do_get. Then it's going to be taking a parameter of self. Then after that, we are going to specify some parameters, like if the server connects me, it connects to me via get. What do I expect? So right now, I'm going to specify an if statement to tell the server if, if self dot path, to tell it if the path that the server is trying to connect to equals, then slash, what I want you to do is to send the following thing. So it's going to be self dot send response. It's going to be 200. Okay, so there it is. Then after that, I needed to do another thing, which is self dot end headers, so that it can actually send the default headers to the server. Then after that, what I'm going to be doing is to define a message. So I'm going to just define a message which is equals to welcome to, then let me just pick the CVE number to make it look a bit more pretty. So let's go back to Windows, then just pick the exact CVE number. So here it is. This is the CVE number. So let me go back to the Windows box. So welcome to, sorry about that, I don't think I can use that. So let's just say welcome to WordPress exploit XXE injection. So there it is. Then after that, I need to send this information back to the server. So to do that, what I'm going to be doing is to specify self.w file dot write. Then what it requires is, you see, it requires bytes, not string. So we're just going to take our message value, then do an encode to make sure that we send bytes. And that's it. So we can actually just save it. And remember, the moment we do press Control S, it saves. And if we go back to our Linux box, then back to the terminal, then just close the server, then start it back up again. You see it works. Then right now what I can do is to go back here, then just try to access Flash. So it still says HTTP status not implemented. And the reason as to why it's saying that, it's because we are still using the base HTTP request handler. So we need to use the handler class that we had actually created. So let me just save it again, then go back to my Linux box, stop the server, then run it again. It says there is something that is not as it should be. So what have I deleted? You can see we have unbalanced number of quotes. Is it that really? So it says that there is something that is not okay. Let me go and just try to look at using nvim exploit.py. It said line 34. Okay, that seems to be okay. Yeah, I can see where the problem is, but I don't understand exactly how this got saved here. So there it is. Let's try running it again. And it says server started, but it just exits after starting the server. I don't know why this is happening. So it just prints starting server, but given the fact that we haven't specified run, it's actually not running anything. So let me just include that run again, then try it again. Sorry about that. And it says that it's worked. So we've been able to again instantiate the server. And if I go back and try to curl it, you can see this time it actually works. You get welcome to WordPress Exploit XXE injection. And it's the same exact message that we defined in our header. So right now we have an exploit that works. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is first of all trying to see how exactly can we be able to log into WordPress. That's number 2. So to log into WordPress, what we'll need to do is to specify another function. The best thing about Python is, one of the best practices whenever you're writing Python is to ensure that you put your code in function. So if one function fails, it's easy to debug as compared to just, writing the entire code as one block. So putting it in different functions, it ensures that if something fails, you can just debug that one specific function and going through the entire code to try to identify exactly where the exploit failed. So the next thing that we're going to do is to first of all try to see exactly how are we able to log into WordPress. But as even this is happening, remember we said that you're going to be using the module called AgPass to be able to just implement some sort of a way of, just using terminal, specifying the arguments, then running it instead of just hard coding. So one of the things that, as you can see, that I've hard coded is the IP address of the attacker machine and the port. So let's just use AgPass to specify a way of being able to just use arguments in the terminal. So to use arguments, I'm just going to be saying args, which is going to be an argument, is equals to argpass dot argument parser, which is this module. Then after that, I'm going to be specifying a description. Then I'm just going to be using an exploit. You can actually use anything here, it doesn't matter. Then from there, the next step is just to specify the exact arguments. Like in our case, I'm going to be putting add argument. Then I'm going to be specifying the argument. Like in our case, I'm just going to be using -i for the IP address, put comma, then specify -- IP address. But let me say attacker IP address. Let me do this. I think having spaces will make it a bit difficult. So attacker IP address. Then after that, what I'm going to be specifying is the type of argument you're going to get. So I'm going to be specifying type equals string for str. Then after that, I'm going to be specifying the meta. Forgetting one last thing that I need to var is equals to be nothing. Then after that, I'm also going to be specifying something like an help, which is going to be attackers IP address. Then the last thing, I think I'm forgetting one last thing that I need to specify to make it work. So required, it's the required, which is true. So this is going to tell AgPass is that the moment a user is trying to run this script, if they don't provide this parameter, just error out and tell the user that they need to provide this parameter. So that's one of them. The second parameter I'm going to be using is going to be add a second argument. In our case, it's going to be port. So I'm just going to be using -p or -- port Then after that, the next thing that I'm going to be specifying is the type, which is going to be an integer. Unlike the first one, which is a string, this is going to be an integer. Then the help is going to be uh, attacker server port. There it is. Then after that, I need to specify the method var, which is going to be nothing. Then the last thing that I need to provide is the required tag, which is going to be required is equals to true. So after that, the last thing that I need to do is to just say args. So it's going to be args dot parse args. So there it is. Then after that, we've already now, specified how our arguments are supposed to actually look like, but we need now to consume them. So to consume them, like, for the port, what I need to do is just to put, let me say, the parameter, this is going to be argument, or argument is equals to args.parse args. So to use it, we're going to use argument dot p for port, or you can use p or port. Then for here, I hope that's the last time I used that pass was quite some time back, so I hope I remember that the syntax is correct. Then for the IP address, what you're going to be using again is argument dot then specify I for attacker's IP address. So let me just save the script again. So please compare or overwrite, just override it. So let's make sure that it's okay. Then from there, the next thing that I'm going to do is to come down here, then close the script, and to make sure that it's as expected, let's just use nvim to ensure that everything looks as expected. You can see the arguments were okay. Everything looks okay right now. So let's try to run it again and see what you're going to get. So Python 3, then export.py, and it says now, argpass is actually doing what it's supposed to do. It says that the following arguments are required, provided an attacker IP or the port. So what I'm going to do is to specify those arguments like -I. We are going to specify 0.0.0.0. Then for the port, we're going to specify 8000. So let's try to run it and see if it's going to work. It says namespace has no argument -I. So let's try to see if we use, instead of -I, if we use attacker-IP address, if it's going to work. Sorry, it's been actually quite some time since the last time I used argpass. That's why I hoped it was going to work. So let me just copy it, then go back to -I, then just try to include it there. So it says it doesn't work. Okay, seems to be getting an error. IP address is not defined. So what you can do is, let's change this to be attacker address, like that. Attacker address, instead of putting it that way. I think that's a bit better. Then let's save it again, go back to our Linux, then hope it's going to work. So whenever you're writing exploit, these are the kind of debugging you need to do to ensure that by the time you finish writing the exploit, it's actually not going to work. Instead of writing the entire exploit, then something fails at the end. So let's try to run it again, then see if it's going to work. It says something's a syntax error. I don't know exactly why that is happening, but as you can see, it added another run. I don't know why. I've seen this happen a couple of times. If you know exactly why this is happening, you can just include in the comments. But let's try running it again. And as you can see, this time it has worked. So that hyphen was what was bringing the error to the script. But right now it works. So to confirm if it works, let's just go back. Then again, try to do the same thing we did again. So as you can see, we are able to do it and it works. We are able to, make it work. So that's good. So the next thing that we're going to do is to now, next is to try to do, what we're going to do is to try to log into WordPress. So what I'm going to do is to create another function called login. So def. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to do login. Then do I need even to provide the exact parameters? So you can actually just do username then specify the password as the parameter it's going to take. Then after that, we're going now to use HTTP request modules that we initially identified up here to just be able to, log into the server. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to go back to my Windows box. And the reason as to why I'm going back to my Windows box is because I need to see exactly how login is implemented in WordPress. So the next thing I'm going to do is to just log out of the system entirely. Let's give it a second. I just need to make sure that the logout was successful. I really hope it was, because we definitely need to log in to be able to capture that request. So let me go back to metapress.htb. I think it's just going to take a second, but it's going to work eventually. So let's just give it a second. Then still I'm logged in. Reason as to why I'm logged in, I'm not even sure if I can explain, but if it refuses to log out, I'm just going to go to storage. Then in my cookies tab, I'm just going to click delete all. Then again, try to refresh the site. So this one is hopefully going to work. So it has taken us back to the login site. So I think we need to capture two requests. So one of them, it's going to be, let's just intercept this login request. That's the first request I think we need to intercept, the login one. So let's just click it. I believe we need to put a Firefox proxy on intercept mode, then send the first request of the login page to the repeater tab. So let's just click login. Then send it again. The reason as to why I think it has a cross-site request forgery that we need to get. So I'm not exactly sure where it is right now in the script, but once we intercept a login request, I believe we'll be in a position to get it. So the next thing that I'm going to specify is a login like manager, then specify the password of party like a rockstar. So there it is. Then let's make sure the intercept is on, then try to log in. Then this is the login request that we need to have. So right now, as you can see, let me send it to repeater tab. Then what you can see is we are able to send a couple of parameters in wp-login to the server. These are the parameters that you need to send. I'm not exactly sure if we need these PHP. So let me first of all just send this request and see if it's going to work. You can see 302 found, and it's telling us to set the following headers. Then it's trying to redirect us to wp-admin/profile.php. So let me just try first of all to get rid of this PHP session ID and see if still we are going to be able to log into the server, because having that makes our exploit to be a whole lot easier. So it actually still works. So without it, still everything works as expected. So this is just the request that we need to log in. So let's start implementing it in Python and make sure that it's going to work. So let me just copy the post data that we're going to be using. Remember this specific request is a post request to wp-login.php. So let's specify it here. So to specify it, what I'm going to do is first of all create a dictionary called data, which is just going to contain the data that we use, the post data. So the post data, I forgot that we can't copy paste anything, which is going to make the exploit a bit harder, but it's okay. So we need to specify first of all log and pwd, which in our case log is manager. So a log, in our case it's manager. I'm just going to add code as we begin the exploit to make sure it works. Then from there we're going to use the argpass to make sure that we pass the arguments. So in our case it's going to be manager. Then the next thing is pwd to specify the password, which in our case is party like a rock star. Then after that, let me see the next argument that we need to provide. It's going to be wp-submit, wp-submit in small letters. So wp-submit, then it's going to be having a log, then space in. Then let me see the next argument that we need to provide. It's going to be redirect underscore to. So redirect underscore 2, then specify the HTTP colon backslash meta press, sorry about that, press.htb forward slash, then I think it was wp-admin/profile.php. I hope it's correct. I'm just going to confirm those details in a second. Then test cookie is equals to 1, test cookie is equals to 1. So that's it. So let me confirm the redirect to URL to make sure it's correct. So as you can see, I messed up the exploit again. So let me just click save, then go back. It just requires us to provide till wp-admin slash. So you don't need to provide the profile.php. So let me remove that. So this is going to be the post data that we're going to use. So to use it, I'm going to include another thing, but we're going to see later on, is to specify login underscore successful full. It's going to be requests dot post. Remember, it's supposed to be a post request. We need to provide the exact URL, which in our case is going to be http colon backslash meta press.htb slash wp-login.php, then specify the post data, which is going to be data is equals to be data. Then the last thing that we need to provide is going to be the cookie. So there's this cookie that we definitely need, and I'm going to show you exactly why. So the first time you authenticate to WordPress, it's going to send you the WordPress-test underscore cookie, and as you can see, it works with it. So if I remove this specific parameter, then try to send it to send the request again, you're going to actually get an error. The first time that I wrote this exploit about 2-3 months ago, it didn't work because of this specific parameter. This is because WordPress first of all needs to confirm that you're able to save cookies before it allows you to log into the site. So right now we don't have a 302 found. We have a 200 okay. And if I click render, I think it has something. I hope it has something. I can't be sure, but as you can see, it says cookies are blocked or not supported in your browser. You must enable cookies. So if it just uses that cookie to make sure that you can actually enable cookies, so that whenever you authenticate, you can actually access the application. So that's why we need these WordPress underscore test underscore cookies. So to specify cookies, what you're going to do is to specify cookies, then specify a second dictionary, which in our case is going to be I think it was WordPress underscore test underscore cookies. Let me just confirm if that's correct. Test underscore cookie. Test underscore cookie. Then we're going to specify it as a dictionary. Then what did it use? Let's confirm. It was WP space cookie space check. WP space cookie space check. So WP space cookie space check. So there it is. So this is going to be our login request, but sometimes you'll find that somebody might provide a password that definitely shouldn't work. So just to check this, you're going to be using an if statement. Then what you're going to do is to check if login successful dot status underscore code equals 200. Okay, let me say 302 found, or to indicate a successful login. So if the login is successful, I need you to provide a login underscore success underscore message, which is going to use colored. Then from there, what I need to provide is this login successful, to tell the user that the login was successful, saving cookies, then specify agreeing. Then after that, we just need to print that to the user. Print. Then you're going to print login successful message. Then after we've been able to log in, we need to save that cookie, because that's the same cookie we're going to use whenever we'll be doing uh, uploading the malicious file. So just to do that, what you're going to do is to specify a cookies variable, which is going to be login successful dot cookies dot get underscore dict. So basically what this is going to do is to take our cookies and save it in this variable. But remember, one thing we need to understand is the fact that this is going to be a variable that it's only going to be used in this specific function. So if I try to call this function outside this specific block of code, this specific function is actually not going to work. So to enable it to work, I'm going to be specifying global to tell it that I want you to use cookie as a global variable. Let me see if it's going to work. Yes, there it is. So I've specified cookies as a global variable, meaning from anywhere in this exploit of mine, I can actually be able to call cookies. And to demonstrate it, let me just come here, then try to type cookies, and you're going to see the intelligence. We can see we can be able to call cookies. So that's good. That's exactly what we want. So that works. So the next thing that we need to tell the user is if their login is not successful. So let me just use an else statement. Then down here, what I'm going to be doing is to specify a second pair of message, failure underscore login. It's going to be, sorry about that. It's going to be colored. Then I'm going to provide the failure message, which is going to be a minus. Login failed. Use another set of credentials, then specify red. Then what I'm just going to do is to again print the message of the failure in logging in. So failure log in. Then from there, we don't want the user to continue executing this script. So the moment they have a failed login attempt, what we want to tell the script is the moment they fail to log in, just exit the entire script. So if they fail to log in, what we want to do is really simple. First of all, is to stop the HTTP server, then log out of that specific server. So to do this, what I'm going to do is to specify HTTP-server. Remember, we think we defined it somewhere. So to be able to use it, what I'm going to do is to use comma, then HTTP. So this is the server that we need to shut down. But remember, the reason as to why I'm not able to extract it, it's because I haven't declared this variable as global, as I said. So I just need to use global, then specify the HTTP server. Then I think if I'm not even exactly sure if I need to specify it up there. So what I need to do, let me try to specify it here and see if it's going to work. So HTTP server dot shut down. So telling it that we need to shut down the server. Then from there, what we need to do is another thing really simple, to specify sys dot exit. Then we're going to specify code 1 to tell it that there was a failure, so I just need you to exit. So there it is. Now it's working. So remember, we have already coded our credentials, but you're going to change it and use the username and password later on during the walkthrough. So the next thing that I'm going to specify is another function called main. So def main, that is going to hold the function of both logging in and executing the script. So to do that, it's actually going to be really simple. So for main function, what I'm going to do is to come back here, then specify login to specify our function. Then let me just use the username of manager, then the password of party like a rock star. There it is. Then instead of hazard coding our credentials here, what we can just do is to call username, then we can just call our password. So this makes our exploit look a bit more interesting than it was before. So there it is. So let's try to save it, and it says something is going to be overwritten, which is still okay. We don't have a problem with that. Then come back here. Let's just open it up to make sure everything is as expected. So we still have that, we still have these, everything seems to be in order right now. So let's just try to run it again and see if it's going to work. It says exploit started on HTTP, but still, we're not getting anything else, which remember we were supposed to get login successful or login failure. So the reason as to why this is actually not working is because we need to define this main function in our main method down here. So to do that, I'm just going to be using main, then specifying it down there, saving it, and we still are going to be having one gotcha as to why it's not going to work. So let's again try to close the exploit, then run it again. Still it works, but as you can see, we're still not getting that login success or login failure message. So something didn't work, and the reason as to why it didn't work, it's because this server it's still running. So basically you're not able to execute this main function because our code freezes here because of the server. So to be able to execute the code, we're going to be using something known as threading, whereby we're going to thread this run function to make sure that if once we reach this function, still our script is able to execute anything that is down here. So for that, we are going to import another module called threading. So let me just import threading. So this is the module that we're going to use for this specific function. Then what I'm going to do is to come down here, then specify something known as a thread, which is a function. Then thread is going to be threading dot thread. Then the function you want to thread. So you're going to specify a target, which in our case is going to be run. I want to make sure everything is okay. Then the last thing that we need to do is to specify thread. Sorry about that. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. So let me just go back to line 65, then specify thread.start to make sure that we just start the thread. So that's it. So what I'm going to do is to save the script again, go back to my Linux box, get rid of that. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to try and execute it. And as you can see, still I'm not able to get it to work. Okay, now it works. As you can see, it says that login failed. Use another set of credentials. So basically our login failed. But if we go back to our Windows machine, we believe that our credentials are correct and they are supposed to work. And that's the second gotcha that we're going to have with the HTTP request. So what it does is it automatically follows redirect. So what we want to tell the script is that I don't want you to follow any redirects. So the request that you get, even if it's a 3 or 2 found, don't follow any redirect, just take it as it is. And to specify that, I'm going to be using another argument called allow redirects. Sorry about that. Then allow redirects, then I'm going to set it to false to tell it that I don't want you to follow any redirects. So we've saved the script. Let's just try to execute it again and see if you're going to log in successfully. So it takes a while, but you see right now it works. We are able to log in successfully to the server, and it says that our script was able to save the cookies. So the next thing that we can even try to do is to just print the cookies for the user's benefit. So what we can do, if I come back here, I can include another line. So let me put a \n. Then try to include cookies saved. I think let me take this line of code because I think we need to use it up here. Then just put it here so that we can actually use this variable called cookie. So cookies saved, then equals start. Then I'm just going to specify cookies. And as you can see, it doesn't work. It's because I need to use an F string to make sure that it calls a function. So it's a variable called cookie. So let's save it again. Then go back to our Kali Linux box. Then try to run it again. It says cookie saved, and it gives us the entire set of cookies that was saved by the application. So here it is. Now our script looks nice. So we can actually continue with the script. So we've been able to set up a server. So if we go back to our targets in the Notepad Obsidian, we've been able to set up an HTTP server, which is good. We've been able to log in. The thing that is remaining is uploading a WAV file, which it's going to be a bit trickier than the first two things that we've done, but definitely not impossible. But before even we start coding it, remember we have a username and a password. What we want our script to be able to do is to specify the username and password from terminal instead of even hard coding it to the script. So to do that, I'm going to go back to my argpass, then specify those two arguments. So I'm just going to be using args.add argument to add another set of argument. Then I'm going to specify -u for username, then comma, dash dash username, then specify the type, which is going to be str, to specify string. Then the next thing, I'm going to specify the help. Then I'm going to write WordPress username, then specify required to make it true, so that if a user doesn't provide the specific if it doesn't provide this specific parameter, the script won't actually work. So there it is, it works. So the next thing that I'm going to add is the password. So I'm going to be using again arg.add argument, then specify -p for dash small p for password, then dash password, then specify a type to tell it that it's going to be a string, str, then specify help, tell it's going to be the sorry about that, I need capital, yes, WordPress password. Then the last thing that I need to specify is the metavar. It's going to be nothing. Then required. Sorry about that. Let me go back. Then specify required is equals to true, to make sure that the user needs to provide that specific argument. So another thing that I need here is metavar. Put it as nothing. Then send it. There we go. Now it's looking good. It's looking really, really, really good. So the next thing that we need to do is to come back up here. Then here what you're going to be doing is to specify args. I think it was argument dot username, then specify argument dot password. Argument dot password. There it is. So let's save the script again, and then right now you need to stop the server again. So instead of just running the server, let me do an nvim to make sure the exploit look as expected, to make sure that we don't get any error when I'm trying to execute it. So the thread looks okay, the login looks okay. Then let's just try to execute it the same way we did before, but this time it's not going to work. It's just going to say that there is a conflict, which is okay. And I know why. It's because we specified dash p twice. So what I'm going to do is to specify dash capital P to be port, then small p to be password. So I think this will clear the conflict that we have currently on the file. Sorry about that. So let's try to execute it. It doesn't work. It says because the following two arguments are not provided. So first of all, remember for the port we changed it should be capital P. Then the next thing, and if you're getting this error and you don't exactly know what you need to put, you're just going to use Python 3, then exploit.py, then -h for help. So it's going to give you the exact help that you need to provide. But as you can see, this argument looks a bit weird. It's something that you can try to fix at the end if you have enough time. But let's just continue with the walkthrough. So right now I need to provide dash capital P for the port. Then, sorry about that. Then the next thing I need to provide is dash U for username, which in our case it was manager. Then dash P, it's going small p for the password, use party like a rock star. So let's try with that and see if it's going to work. Let's just give it a second. I hope it works. Still waiting for a feedback, and voila, it works. So let's try to use a password that definitely doesn't exist, like Musioka as the password. So let's just do it and see if you're going to get a login failure. That's what we're actually expecting. So if you don't get a login failure, we know we need to change something on the script. But if we get a login failure, it means our script works as expected. So good. Right now our script works as expected. So that's the second part done, and it looks really nice. The exploit works. We've been able to authenticate to the application. Now we need to just upload that web file. And to do that, let me just go back to repeater. Then first of all, what I'm going to do is to get rid of that. Then just try to log in as a normal user. So let's just give it a second. Then from there, we're just going to try to fine tune the script to create the last exploit. Then you're going to edit the HTTP server bit to make it work. Then finally just, combine the entire exploit. Then, finish the walkthrough. So let me go back to my proxy tab, then click intercept. Then I'm going to intercept this request that goes to upload. So this request, I know I need it. If I remember well, I believe I do need that request. Send it to the server, then let it go. Then let me send it again to see exactly what you're going to get, because I believe this is the request that contains that has the cross-site request forgery token. So let it run. I'm getting an error. I don't know why. Let me try to confirm, then come. So going back to the WordPress site, what I'm going to do is to just intercept the request when you click /media, because I believe that's where the cross-site request forgery token is stored at the moment you want to upload it. So you will actually need one. This prevents attacks like cross-site request forgery, or even trying to enumerate that upload functionality without necessarily having to provide that cross-site request forgery token. So just to intercept that request, what I'm going to do is to click here, then go back to my uh, repeater tab, then just look at the request and see if you're going to get anything interesting. So let me send that to repeater. Then I think this is the one that I need. I hope so. So let me just also send this one to repeater. I'm just going to look at both of them to see which one exactly we need for us to be able to craft that exploit. So let me just send both of them, but I think it's going to be the second one. So after that is done, I'm going to click add new so that we can actually upload the same web file once again. So to do that, what I'm going to do is to select the file that we need to upload. Then the next thing that I'm going to do is go back to my desktop, then boxes, box write-up, video write-ups, exploit development. Then I need to pick all files. I thought I saved it somewhere. I hope so. So I seem to have deleted it by mistake. I think we'll need to actually, create it again. Yes, I think we deleted it by mistake, but still it's okay. It's nothing to be worried about. So let me just come back here, copy this command that we had initially, then just try to generate again, try and generate a payload web file. So let me just copy it from the terminal, put it there, then edit the IP address as I see fit. So my IP address still hasn't changed. It's 10.10.14.18 port 8000. So 10, 10, 14, 18 port 8000, then it's supposed to go there. So that's cool. Let's go back. Let me make sure that my intercept is on. Then let me try to upload the file once again. So this is the request that we're looking for. So let me send this one to repeater tab. Then after that, we need to provide the cookies. The good thing, remember, we've already coded a way for our exploit to be able to save the cookie. So that's good. It's just that we'll just have to call that variable. Then we can use it, in a way that we see fit. So that's good. The next thing that we need is provide the file name, upload attachment. Then this is what I was talking about, the underscore WP nonce. So if you provide one that, this is actually a value that is quoted from the page. If you provide a value that definitely does not correspond to this one, these upload automatically for you. It's something that you can check on your own time. But let me just go here and try to see if I can find it. And as you can see, we have one match. So we can get it, sorry about that, from this specific portion of the code. So right now what we have to do is to code a way of being able to retrieve these WP underscore nonce from this page, of which it's not going to be that difficult. So let us go back to our exploit script. Next thing we need to create is now a way of being able to upload the WAV file. So def upload. Then what we need to provide, I don't think we even need to provide anything. Then let me set that variable WP nonce. It's going to be, then I'm going to be using let me just put it as underscore request, because first of all you're getting the request, then extracting the WP underscore nonce from that request. So it's going to be requests dot get. Then after that, I need to provide the exact URL. So I'm just going to go to Babso, then click copy URL, then go back to my my code. Then I'm just going to put it there. So I can't even do that. Sorry if I keep on forgetting that I don't have the ability to copy paste between my VM. It's something I'm going to look into before my next write-up. So it's going to be metapress.htb slash, think it's, let me confirm, wp-admin, then upload.php. So wp-admin, then upload.php. So this is the page you want to get. So the next thing, we need to specify the dictionary. That's the cookies that we've already saved from the login response that we got. So here it is. So what I'm going to do is to just come back here, specify cookies is equals to cookies. So there it is. Then from there, what I want is to get the text. So the text is just going to print the entire HTML content of that specific web page. So, from it being able to do that, I can get that WP underscore nonce. So the next thing I'm going to do is to specify WP nonce is equals to array.search. So this is where the regular expression comes in. Remember, I'm just going to use a regular expression to try and extract that WP underscore nonce. So I'm going to specify a pattern in that specific field. Then from underscore WP nonce dash request, then array.all, to make sure that if it has any sort of line breaks, still it's going to be counted. Then I'm just going to get the first content. So it's group, then specify the first group if I'm supposed to get anything. So let's go back, then get the exact pattern that we need to use to be able to extract that WP underscore nonce, which I'm sure is not that difficult. So what we need is to get this portion, which is underscore WP nonce. I'm sure I can't copy it, so I'll have to write it, but write it a bit slow. And I've seen it's using double quotes, so let me use single quotes for my script. So underscore WP nonce, then I think it's followed by double quotes, single quotes. Then after that, I needed to specify the expression, so it's dot star question mark, then followed by another quote. I think that's okay. I hope so. So yes, I think it looks okay. So because what we just need is this specific string, this one that looks like a hexadecimal string. That's exactly what we need. So after that, let me just try to print it and see if you're going to get anything interesting. So let me just print, then WP underscore nonce. So after that, I think we're good. Let me just save it, then go back to my Kali Linux box. Then what I'm going to be doing is to close the script again, then just start it up again, because I don't think we need to change any other thing. So let's see if it's going to work. And the reason as to why we don't get anything is because we didn't call that function. So we wrote the function but never got to call it. So the next thing that we can do is actually call it. So let me just call upload, then save it, then again try it. So let's close down the server, then try running it again and hope it works. So we get an error saying that Let me see, known, name or service not known. So let us make sure everything looks as we expect it to. So HTTP, I think we type with the URL, that's why it didn't work. So it's metapress.htb. Yeah, given the kind of error we got, it made me believe that probably our URL was wrong. So let's run it again. Okay, I think we have, let me close it, then find exact line. Line 77 has an error. So let's go to line number 77. No, that looks good. I think it's because of these. The parentheses were not matching. So give it a second, and as you can see, now it works. We've been able to get that WP underscore nonce. So as you can see, it actually changes. So unless we get the correct one, you won't be able to perform the upload. So let me close it again and see if we can get it again. Yes, as you can see, it keeps on changing. So every time I restart the server and try to access that page, we notice that that nonce value changes. So these, it's just a way of protecting the upload functionality from being exploited by something like a scanner, because you need to have the correct cross-site request forgery for you to be able to perform any upload. So that's good. So the next thing, I just want to make it intuitive that that's exactly what we are doing. So let me come back here. Uh, then create another variable called message, then underscore WP nonce is equals to be colored. The good thing about using colored is, it makes your exploit look a bit more pretty. Then let's type just an informational text like extracting WP nonce from upload.php. Then let's put green color to make it green, then just print it. Print message, there it is. Then right now we already right now we actually do have that, so that's good. So what we can do next is, so let me see, just give me a second. I'm trying to make sure that everything looks good. So I think what we can also do is actually take this message to avoid any type of redundancies, like using two print statements. So let me just copy that, come back here, then paste it there. Then what I can do is get rid of this entire line. I think it makes the code look a bit more pretty. Then what I can do is add an F string, then include the WP underscore nonce in this specific field. So it will be underscore WP nonce, then just print the WP nonce message. I think that's better. So print message WP nonce, that's good. So right now we've been able to extract. The next thing that you're supposed to do now is to do the upload itself, of which we already have the exact payload that you need to use. So basically it's a post request. It's using a multi-part. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, multi-part form data. So basically this is how it looks like. We need to specify a couple of parameters. The good thing is we don't need to worry about anything up here because it's something that can be automatically set. We need to worry about the post data, which I'm sure it's not going to be a hard thing. So what we'll do is, first of all, specify the post data that we're going to be using. Like in our case, I hope I remember the syntax. If not, it's something that we can actually Google. But what I can do is specify the payload. Let me just create another variable, which is a dictionary called payload. Then from there, I need to specify the contents of that post request. I hope I remember exactly how it's done. So like here, I'm supposed to specify the name, which is name. So it's going to be name, then none, then specify the output. I think it's the output file. It's going to be payload.wav. So let me do that. Dot wave. I think it's just with a V. Let me confirm. That looks good. Then action is upload attachment. So let me create another variable, which is it action. Let me confirm. So action is upload attachment. So that's the action that we're going to need. Action, it will be none, then comma, upload attachment. There it is. Then the next thing that we need to specify, let me see, it's the WP underscore nonce. Remember, this is the value that we extracted using the regular expression. So WP underscore nonce. So it will be underscore WP nonce. Then specify the value, which is going to be none, followed by the underscore WP nonce. So there it is. So let us specify the next parameter, which is supposed to be now this one. So name is async dash upload. So async dash upload. Then I'm going to specify the file name. So the file name is going to be payload.wav. So it's going to be payload.wav. Then I'm going to specify the payload itself, the payload that I want to upload. So that's the wave underscore payload. And I'm going to get an error, but don't worry about that. It's something we're going to fix in a sec, even it's really something small. I just need to make sure, first of all, that everything is as expected. So what we need now is to get this entire string or this payload to that specific position. And the easiest way I came to find of doing that is to just, take anything that we want here, then just get it there. So what I'm going to be doing is, first of all, let me just send it to a new tab so that if we need it, we can just come back to it again. Then the first thing I'm going to do is to get these, then do a base64 encode, because what I just need us to, what I need us to, remain with is just the portion of the URL whereby it's always custom. So let me press Control B on my keyboard and it's encoded. So let me copy it. Then again, okay, I've remembered you can't even do the copying itself, but let me see. Let me go back here. Then what I can do is go to SMB because I believe the directory is available. Then I'm going to create a file nvim, then payload, then open it up, save it up, then go back to, I think I need to save it as payload.txt. I think that's a bit better. Then let me go back to my Windows box, then try to see if there's a way I can access it. So show all options, then click that. Then let me open the notepad, give it a second. Just need to get that payload, that's it. So this is what I want. So let me copy it. Then what I can do is go back here. Then what I want us to do now is to craft this wave payload. So to craft this wave payload is actually easy. How I'm going to be doing it is really simple. So I'm just going to declare this variable first of all, wave underscore payload equals. Then I'm going to be using the base64 decode module. So it will be B64 decode, then specify this one. So here it is. Then the next thing that I'm going to be doing is to say wave payload plus equals to concatenate the string. Then the next thing that I need to provide is the URL. So let me go back to Babsot. Then I think let me just press again Control Shift B to get it back to the way it was supposed to be. It's this portion of the payload. So what I just need a user to provide for me is this one. If they can provide this address, that's good. So what even I can do, I think I can make it to be a bit better than this, because users can, I think it's better for them to be just providing the IP address. So what I can do is go back. Let me just encode this entire string till HTTP, Control Shift B, copy it again. This is the more tricky part of the exploit, but it's something we're going to finish. It's not the same one because it doesn't have the equal sign. So I believe I must have messed up with something. So let me copy it again. Then exit out of nvim, payload, nvim payload.txt, get rid of that. Okay. So I don't know exactly why I can't be able to copy paste. Okay. Let me just open this up, then try it here and see if the problem goes away. So let me copy this again. Yeah, that pasted correctly. This one too. So that's the first part. Then the next thing that the users need to provide, let's go back to the exploit, is supposed to be an IP address followed by the port number. So let me just come back here, copy that, then put the port. Then after that, the last portion of the payload, which is going to be the end of this DTD payload. So here it is. Let me just copy it again, then do a Control B to your base64, encode it, copy it again, go back to my script, paste it there. Then this is how my exploit is supposed to look like. I think this is better. You're going to see exactly why I did that in a second. But let's try to run payload, then do an nvim payload.txt, then copy it. Yeah, I think now that looks better. So if we go back to our Windows machine, I'm sure this one doesn't exist. So let me open it up again. Show more options, then do a refresh. I think that's a bit better. So let's now copy it to our script. This is the first part of the payload. So what I'm going to do is to replace it here. Then after that, I need to provide an L-host. So to provide an L-host, what I'm going to do is to use quotes, then use an F-string, then put it as L-host. It's going to error out, but it's something you're going to fix using Agbus in the next few seconds. Then after that, I'm going to provide another L port. So let me put it here. Then lastly, we need to provide that last portion of the payload. So to do that, it's going to be another payload plus equals. Then it's going to be another B64 decode. So B64 decode, then put it in quotes, then copy the last portion of the payload, then we'll be done. So here it is. Copy, then come back. Sorry about that. Come back here, then again paste it there. So this one is looking as expected, which is good. We have some errors. If you can see down here at the bottom of the screen, it says that we have some errors, but that doesn't really matter because it's something we're going to fix in a second. So let's come back to argpass, then add those arguments. So let's just use the same format again. Arg.add arguments. Then first of all, I'm going to provide the listening host, which is supposed to be the attacker's machine. Then I think we are going to change this one. I don't really think we need it. So we are going to actually remove this entire IP address from how I'm looking at things. But that's a story that we are going to do later on. For now, let it remain as is. So I'm going to provide an, first of all, to start with a listening port, a listening host. So L host dash by providing dash L, then comma, dash L host, then comma, then type is going to be a string, then comma, help, then attackers, server IP address, then comma, metavar is equals to nothing, then required, put it to true. That's okay. Then let's specify the L port because that's what we're going to be needing. So args dot add argument, then specify L port. So that's the port. I think we even already have the port indicated somewhere. I think this is the same one. So we're just going to be using this one. So we don't need to put even that argument because we already have something that is covering for that. So to use them, what I'm going to be doing is to go back to my upload, then wherever there is lhost, specify argument dot lhost, then argument dot lport, argument dot port. So that's the port that you're going to be listening on. Then after that, what we are going to be doing is save the script. Let me make sure everything is okay. I think I need to overwrite that file again. So let me see if I'm missing anything. It seems good. It really seems good. So I think we just need to send the request. I hope it works. But just to confirm if it works, let me send this one here and see exactly what I'm going to get, given the fact that successful false, this file type is not permitted for security reasons. Okay. I think I know why it's saying that. It's because we tampered with the magic byte. So let's just come back here. Then what I'm going to be doing is Control Shift B. Then also at the end, Control Shift B. There it is. Then try it again. And it works. So basically it's checking the magic bytes of a file. If you need to understand what magic bytes is, it's what sometimes identify exactly what a file is. So it works. So if you get a success, it means it worked. But definitely the problem was in the magic bytes. So now we're good. We're really good. So what we can do next is to try to do the upload, then see if it's going to work. We're just going to be looking at the success response and see if we're going to get the same exact thing. So I'm going to create another variable called success underscore upload, which equals to requests dot post, then specify the URL. So later on, lastly, what you're going to do is we are not going to be doing this hard coding of URL. It's something we're just going to use an agpass to pass it, but it's the last thing I'll do before finishing the walkthrough. So it's metapress.htb. Then what is the directory? It's wp-admin, then async-upload.php. So it's wp-async-upload.php. Then provide the file we want to upload. Let me confirm if that's the correct one. Yeah, it's files. Then you're going to specify the payload. Then specify the cookies. Remember it was cookies. So let me space this a bit to look better. Cookies. Then I believe that that's it. So given the fact that this is the first time I'm doing this and I don't want to start creating some proxies, so to confirm if the upload worked, I think we're just going to do a print statement for success upload .html .text, not HTML, sorry about that. So let's just save it, then try to run this script again. I hope it works because trying to decode that portion of the code is actually a bit crazy. So what you're going to do is to come back here, close this server, then start it up again. Then it requires an lhost dash dash lhost. Now this is the lhost that the server is supposed to use to reach back to us. So in our case, it's supposed to be 10.10.14.18. So it's going to be 10.10.14.18. So let's try it again. It says it worked. So it says you cannot concatenate strings with bytes, and this is in this place. So those are the kind of errors that you usually get, so don't worry about them, it happens. So I think after you do a decode, what I need to do is to again decode it to get string not decode. So let me just do this. Then I'm going to do this for also this one here. So let me do that, then do this, then dot decode, then save it up, then try to run it again and see if it's going to work. I hope it works, because it will have made our job really easy. So UTF cannot be decoded to, okay, so it's bytes. Okay, I think you're getting some errors right now, but it's okay. It's something I believe we can fix. So what we can do is probably get rid of this one first of all. Then this one, then let me do just a dot encode. That's it. Then save it, then try to run it again. If it refuses, you're going to be using some print segment for debugging. So I'm getting an error, nvim.py. Then let's go to the end. Yes, I can see main has been called twice, which is not supposed to be the case. So let's try again. Yes, so right now, as you can see, we got a successful upload, which means our job is really easy, because now it works. This is what we wanted. So we've been able to reach this place, but remember, the moment you upload this web shell, it's supposed to connect back to our server. But in our case, we did see any request coming back in. And to confirm this, let me go back to my prompt. If I try to access, right now, port 8000, we know it works, as you can see from the screenshot. But, when that payload.web tried to access our site, it wasn't able to do that. This is because we haven't defined a route for /evil, /evil.dtd. So we're going to go back to our handler class, then, try to we are going to try and get that endpoint working. So let me just start coding it. If then self.path then equals then /evil.dtd. Then what I want you to do is to self.w file .write. So first of all, I think even I've gone ahead of myself. Let me just try to do self.response self.send response, which is equals to be 200, okay. Then self.end headers, which is going to be okay. Then now we need to upload that DTD. So remember, if I go back to my Linux box just to explain a bit, we had this file we had here. So here it is. This is the file that we need to send back to the server. So if we can get this exploit to work, I believe this is the only thing that is remaining for us to be able to have a fully working payload. So, what I'm going to be doing is really simple, but it's going to, sound a bit more confusing than it needs to be. So what I'm going to be doing is, to tell my HTTP server that the response that it's supposed to send to the target system it's supposed to pick it up from a file. So what happens is the moment the code reaches this specific path, what it's supposed to do is to open up a file, get that payload, then submit it to the server. But even for that to happen, what it needs to do is, I think, I know, not even think, I know we need to define another class for us to be able to do that. So the function for upload seems fine right now. In case of any hiccups, we'll just come and look at it. But I think, let me just define the last function, which is upload. Let me just put it as file. Then what the file needs is probably a file name. Then what I need it to do is really simple. Just create another variable called file payload. Then the file payload is just going to be containing 3 spaces. So I'm going to click Control Z. I need to get this payload. So to get that payload, I remembered again, I don't have copy pasting. So I'm just going to be using my SMB server, which seems like a workable plan right now. So let me just go back to my payload.txt, click evil.dtd, then try to paste it. Seems fine. So let me go back here, open up evil. We've already finished up with this one. Then try to open evil.dtd. I'm not sure if it's going to work given the fact that it's not a text file. So let me just move evil.dtd to evil.txt to tell Windows that it's just a text file. So let's try to refresh to get the file. So here it is. Then what we need is to get the payload. Then we're just going to, edit a few components like the system to attack and even the resource that you need to get. So it's going to be really simple, but that's the only change we need to make to that specific file. So let's go back here, copy it there. Then what we are going to do is to use an F string. So for F string, then we need to specify the file name, which this one is going to be. So let me get rid of etc passwd, and in its place put file. Oh God, sorry about that. File name. So these file names comes from this specific parameter. Then from there, what we also need to provide is the attacker's IP address. So let me then come back here to provide the argument .lhost, then comma, argument. It needs to be in curly braces, and it's going to be argument dot port. So there it is. So that looks nice. Those are the only things that we needed to edit. Then the next thing that I'm going to be doing is just to, let me put it in one line. I think it makes it a bit better. So I think that's a bit better, and I hope it works that way. So we'll just save the file to our system and see if it actually saved the way we wanted. So it's just to open up a file handle. So to do that, I'm going to be using with, then open a file. In our case, it's going to be evil.dtd. There it is. Then we're just going to be using the read as file. Then no, actually not even read. Given the fact that we are saving that file, we're just going to be using write as file. Then file dot write. Then file payload, which is here. Then we're going to do a file dot close to close the file handle. So that's it. Then the moment this happens, what we're going to be doing is just, the next thing that we're going to be doing is to read it. So what we are going to be doing is really simple. So we're just going to come back here we're going to come back here. Let me get my thought process working, because we need to do something next. So it's to come, let's just first of all come back here to our HTTP server, then now open that file handle. So then I'm going to open that file handle. This time you're not going to write but to read. So it will be evil.dtd, then comma, specify read. Then we're going to read it as file. Then we're going to do file.read to read the entire file. So I'm going to put it as a variable content. So content is equals to file.read. Then the next thing that we're going to be doing is just to display it. So it will be self.w file.write to write the file. Remember, it needs to be content dot encode, then that's it. Then that function is pretty much done. I hope it works. But for us to confirm, remember, if it works, if I open that evil.dtd, what it's supposed to do is to get back the base 64. I really hope I still have it. If I have it, it will be actually nice. So not this one. I'm not even sure if it's this one. Nope. I hope it's this one. Nope, not this one. But what the file does, whenever it retrieves the content, it retrieves it in a base 64 encoded format. So just to confirm that even it's working before we even try to debug it, let's try to let me just show you something, then we can code that one last thing. So let me go back to Mozilla, then go to this payload. As you can see, this is the way it retrieves the file using a parameter called p. So I think I need to make it a bit more apparent. To make it more apparent, I think I need to put something like a file here. So let me see, just give me a second. Let me do it this way. So if self.path dot contains, or let me say something like if p then equals in self.path, what I want you to do is to just print self.path. So there it is, which is okay. I guess it's okay. So we're just going to confirm. So let me overwrite the file once again, then again try to execute it and hope it works, because I've made a lot of code changes without even testing. So let's just hope it works. Then I think I need to get rid of this file because it makes the export look really bad. So let me see where I wrote that. I think it was somewhere down here whereby there was this. Or what I can do is Control Z, then just Control Z. Yes, that I think it's a bit better, because I think we're going to edit that place a bit later on. So let me just try to run it again. So it says that there is no such file as evil.dtd, and the reason as to why it's saying that, because this is the first time I've run the script. So I haven't still coded a way of it being able to run this file. But for me to do that, what I need to do is really simple. But anyway, given the fact that we get that he tried to get this file, this evil.dtd, it means our exploit actually worked. So up to here, it gives me confidence that our exploit worked, because it tried to access the file, it said it doesn't exist, then it errored out, which is okay. To me, that's okay. So that seems to work. So what I'm going to be doing is to come back here, then I'm going to copy this function of upload. What I'm going to be doing is really simple, just putting it up here. Then the next thing that I'm going to be doing is doing a CMD loop of this specific file. So what I'm going to be doing is get rid of these. I told you there were going to be a lot of code changes while we move on, but I think we're done. Right now we are looking a bit better. So then the last thing that I'm going to create is just a way of me being able to both extract files from the server. So I'm just going to create the last class called class terminal. Then it's going to be using the CMD module that we initially had. Then what I'm going to be doing is to create a prompt equals then let me try to see file name, then def, then default, I think I'm okay, default. Then I'm not going to need these entire strings. I'm just going to be using self and args. This is the autocomplete that sometimes it helps, sometimes it gives you a lot, but I think this is the best way to initialize it, even though we're not using it. So the next thing that you're going to be doing is to get that file. I think file is that function that we had somewhere. If that function is somewhere here, this is the function that I'm talking about, and it takes a file name. So to get that file name, I'm just going to be using arg okay, let me see. I hope it's going to work. Reason being we also specified args in our main function. If it doesn't work, we're going to change these args to be like args1 or something. So let's just leave it as is for the time being, unless something fails. Then from there, we just need to initialize it. And to initialize it, after we run main, what I want us to do is to try terminal. Let me do this. Terminal is equals to be terminal. Then do a terminal.cmd loop. .cmd loop. So that's it. So it's going to initialize that terminal, that TTY terminal. Then it's just going to be looping over it. So that's it. So what I wanted to do is, first of all, to even before it does the upload, what I always wanted to do is to first of all, so let me just cut it, because the moment you do an upload, it tries to get this file, of which is not going to happen. So I need the upload to happen exactly after we've written this file, because this is what this will be the second part of the payload. So I need it to write first whatever we need to extract, then from there what it can try to do is to upload it. So I think we're good till there. Let me then just save it, then try to run it again, and I hope it really works. So let me do this. It says I needed to give it URL, so it's going to be Etsy pass wd. Sweet. As you can see, we've been able to get that basic C4. So we are heading on the right track. We're really heading on the right track. So the exploit is actually almost done. We are almost at the tail end, as you can see, which is making me really excited. But given the fact that we have been able to get this exact file, now we want to decode it and display this information to the user. So to do that, it's really simple. Let me just show you in that Python script. So we are going to go back to our handler, which here it is. Then what I'm going to tell the handler is really simple. I'm going to tell it get what I needed to do is to get the path, so it will be the row. Let me write, just create a variable called row underscore content is equals to. Then what I need to do is to do self dot path to get the entire string. Then after that, what I needed to do is to split it, dot split. Then where I wanted to split is where we can see there is that p equals. So p equals. Then after splitting it, what I wanted to do is to get the second list. So let me just try to print it and see if it's going to work. I hope it works. If not, of course, we can debug. So let me save this exploit again. Then what I'm going to be doing is to go back here and then try to run it again. Then try to extract etc pass wd. So we're hoping to just get the base64 string, which it's going to make. So I think it just picked the first one because I picked, so 0 is the first one. I think I need to pick number 1, not 0. Sorry about that. So given the fact that the Python script starts at 0, so that's the first list. The second list is going to be 1. So I need to pick the second one or the first one. So let me close the server, then run it again. Then try to extract etc pass wd and see if it's going to work. And it works. We actually have the base64. So that's good. So the next thing we need to do, which is probably the last thing, we're going to be doing, is to do contents is going to be b64 decode. Then what you're going to be decoding are the raw contents. Then what you're going to be doing after that is just printing these onto the screen. So to do that, what I just needed to do is to do print. Let's first of all do a print and see if you can make it better later on after just confirming that it's working as expected. So let's just save it, go back to our script, close it out, then try running it again. So it's going to be etc pass wd. Give it a second and see if you're going to get it. Content reference before assignment, because I think I misspelled the variable. I think that's the reason. So it's not content, but it's contents. Yeah, that's why we got that error. So this is the best thing about Python. Their errors are really intuitive. You can actually know exactly where you went wrong. But let's run it again. Then try to extract etc pass wd. It's not going to work. We're going to get an error. Yes, which is expected, pass wd. So let's try again, and it works. We have the etc pass wd file, which is really, really amazing. But as you can see, it's in a byte format. So what we just need to do whenever we are displaying this to the user is to do something known as, decoding the bytes to, a string. To do that is really simple. We're just going to be using the decode function. Save the exploit again. I think hopefully the last time. Then try to run it again. Then specify the file etc pass wd, and voila, we're able to extract that file. So we have a working exploit POC, which is a really nice thing. So the only thing that I need to now get rid of is this specific log file that it's always default in this file, and to get rid of it is actually really simple. So I'm just going to do a def, then message. Then instead of it returning all these things, I'm just going to be returning none. Then I'm also going to be using none. This will ensure that it doesn't return anything. So that's it. Let's close it out, go back, then again try to run the exploit. So it's going to be etc pass wd. Then there it is. We have a working exploit. So if I try etc /etc hosts, let's see if it's going to extract it, and it works. We have the etc host file. So you can even try something like, let me see if I can get the nginx config file. So just give me a second. I think it's less /etc nginx, then sites dash enable, then default. This is the file I want. Let me try to see if we can get these from the server. So let me just try it again and see if it's going to work. Give it a second, and we get it. So here's the file, and we can see that the root for the WordPress site is in www.metapress.html, then blog. So the last file that we are going to be extracting is going to be wp-config.php. And remember, I told you, if somebody is able to extract this from the server, they can actually have your database credentials. So it's something that needs to be taken care of. So it didn't work because of spelling error, but let's do it again. So there it is. So we've been able to extract that file. And as you can see, we have some FTP credentials, which are interesting, but you can also get the database credentials. You can see we have the database name, which is blog, database user, which is blog, then the database password, which is this string. So we've been able to extract the database credentials, some FTP credentials, and even some some authentication unique keys and so on. So that's it. So probably the last thing is just, we've had coded a lot of these IP addresses. If we want, what we can just do is come back to our script, then just add that argument, which I believe it's even really simple. It's something you can do on your own. I just needed to create a POC, explaining exactly how you can be able to create an exploit from scratch, and being able to edit some exploit. If you're going to be doing either OSCP or EJPT, it's something you need to know. Understand exactly how an exploit works, and if an exploit needs some sort of a tweaking, it's something you can actually do on your own. So having that ability gives you an advantage over other people. But it's something that you can learn slowly by slowly. The fact that I'm able to write a code like this is because I've been doing it for quite some time. So I've been coding for the past 2 years Python. That's why I have some basic understanding of the language, but it's something also you can do from your end. And I believe you've learned something from the walkthrough. So without much say, thank you so much. I hope you subscribe to the channel. And then till next time, it's goodbye.